Baby, baby. Baby, baby. You're so cute. Hello, Undertale fans. I have made a new article for your viewing. It has some important topics to discuss, like, for example, when is a cat important? There is a particular situation in which there is certain importance to a kitty, which is as a source of cuteness. Sources of cuteness are important for monsters because they soothe the more dark traits. Potentially, not all monsters would be interested in cats. In fact, yes, one of the monsters in Monsters Incorporated is known as Kitty, which expresses a certain connection between the two kinds of creatures. Nice flip, kitty. There's plenty of little expressions like those in artwork as people express the meaning of life through what they create, interweaving little bits of meaning to create things that resonate with the public, or at least a group on the internet, as Homestuck did. Homestuck did not resonate in general, but it did for a while to a pretty large group, which on the internet was really, really large, proportionally. Why would Homestuck have so little appeal? Why would Homestuck have so much appeal for quite a few years, well, at least a few years, and then have basically no appeal? Look, even my kitty walked away when I'm talking about this, and basically no appeal. Oh, that's appealing. A kitty. Basically no appeal after that, even on the internet. Even the various groups connected to, its former internet presence. Why would it have so little appeal? There is a clear reason for this, which is that Homestuck had a lot of personal things encoded into its structure. It was very personal in nature, and when I say this, it largely has to do with being focused on a single person who participated online in various places. The reason I attracted attention to be the basis of such a thing was that I was a teenager attempting an artistic revolution, and I had been spending 3-4 years on this when Homestuck was made. And so Andrew basically didn't like what I was working on, basically. And so through Homestuck, he taught people how to sabotage and dismantle my efforts. And what his fans did was put all of that into LGBTQ media and some other things like mostly junk comics and cartoons and stuff. Like Neocosmos. The whole title of Neocosmos is funny if you read my Substack and see how much I say about the cosmos. Speaking of Christianity, there are various levels to the heavens, and in my cosmic theology, I explain that one of those levels is called the cosmos and has a special nature especially relevant to all forms of human creativity. Yes, indeed. Going to make some chicken. Gotta let warm up. And so The cosmos is where people can interface with beings that do not actually exist in our world. An example of a category of such beings is monsters. And so it's time to move away from Homestuck back to Undertale. And you see, hatched, raised, and harvested in the USA. What about hatched, raised, harvested in the bowels of the earth? That's my kind of food. That's my kind of living. Sweet and low. Daring. Ink. I smell whispers of pains. I smell. Yeah. And that was just me voicing one of my underbeast creatures. It doesn't really mean anything. Just small talk. Just like talking about the weather. Come here, kitty. Come here, kitty. Be. It's okay, kitty. Yeah, that's chicken. Yeah, you see, like a kitty. Kitties are attracted to their favorite special animals. You can learn something about that. You can learn something about that from animals, and you can apply that to beings that don't actually exist on Earth. Beings which may not exist at all, but one day they will. So, in the limitless potential of creation, there's certainly a lot of room for monsters being real. And who would say that in regards to Undertale besides me? There's certain narratives about works such as Undertale which exclude any sort of interpretation that I would make. That's pretty interesting considering that I inspired the game in the first place and I was closely connected to the community in which it was formed. At the time, I was always just looking at these people. The notion of watching without ever actually not watching. This notion is associated with monsters. Within my nature is things associated with monsters. And out of this nature, I express that by coming up with my own monsters. And I put these monsters in my webcomics and other stuff. I even did some voice acting for my monsters. Little different than what was earlier, because that, number one, that wasn't really voice acting. Number two, I did this cool editing. It was cool already. Didn't even need to try. So anyway. Anyway, let's discuss how little there is of any sort of welcoming in Undertale. There's not much acceptance to discussing my bony creatures, known as the underbeasts. These underbeasts are what I was working on before Undertale was conceived. As early as, 2007, I suppose, maybe earlier, maybe 2006. I was coming up with these. I'm not quite sure when I came up with anomalous phenomena. Let me see if there's something. You notice how the term anomalous is rather similar to anonymous. That's one of those little ways I honor where I get, my inspiration. Anonymous, anomalous. Even though the concepts of my comic book trace back to Charles Fort. There is also that connection to in my main internet community, which is something fifth dimensional in nature. The fifth dimension brings together things in alignment, and so it's not a coincidence that I became highly involved with 4chan and its culture. There's a meaning to 4chan which is relevant to my comic book. So all this is interconnected. It's very holistic. And you contrast that with Homestuck, which number one has a bizarre name. Anomalous phenomena, you know what that is about. Homestuck, what the hell does that mean? What is that? What is that supposed to mean? That's an old question. So anyway, Andrew tried to disassociate where he got his ideas. And this comes from rejecting the whole concept of the fifth dimension, which makes things very interconnected. He prefers selfishness. He's a very selfish person. He prefers to be alone in life, disconnected from other people. And so that was one of his biggest motivations for the weird ass things he did with his Homestuck webcomic. Now let's move on from Homestuck to Undertale. Again, Undertale actually honors from whence it was conceived. Anomalous phenomena relates to 4chan. Undertale relates to the Underrealm, which is the home of the Underbeasts. Unlike Andrew, Toby is a principled artist who has ethics. And so he also put in a certain social context. Because, Undertale fans don't have much to say about Ava's demon, which is one of those curious things bad fans of stuff do. Whether they are fans of bad things like Homestuck or good things like the Terminator. Homestuck fans never talked about the James Cameron content in Homestuck. John and Jake both relate to the main characters of popular James Cameron works. And they did so because they acknowledged, without speaking of it, that those references to the works of James Cameron were done with hateful intent. They were not loving references to the Terminator and Avatar. Andrew had some kind of weird issue with those movies. That's pretty much the only reason not to acknowledge the connection there. And back to Undertale. They don't acknowledge Ava's demon. They don't, honor it as being connected to Undertale, which is normally how communities work. You imagine a town. They honor the old families of that town. They honor the landmarks and the cool tourist attractions and the great restaurants and stuff. And when people leave a town, they also honor where they came from. You don't see that sort of thing in the Undertale community, which is quite sad because internet communities are new communities. They don't have thousands and thousands of years of history. And so there's various good things that have never been properly implemented in internet communities, even though there's a very long history of equivalence in, normal living. Ava's demon is the most successful example of my manifestation. And when I say manifestation, I mean something produced by the effort to start an artistic revolution 15 years ago. Almost gotta refill my pepper grinder. When I saw Ava's demon, I did not believe it was real, and it instantiated many aesthetic traits that I enjoyed the most, and it also has further details in, what is depicted in the webcomic. And so, as part of not acknowledging where Undertale came from, Undertale fans don't acknowledge Ava's demon either. There's a number of unfortunate implications for them. And one of my whole things is being possessed by a fake demon. It's not actually a demon, it's an underbeast. And I'm a Catholic, and that's just how I like to be spicy, like the Daredevil character. Yeah, same thing. And this underbeast I call my dog. There's a variety of names. And on this basis, I connected with my best friend who also worked on Undertale, and it was closely connected to Toby, was also closely connected to Andrew, also closely connected to other people between those two communities, also connected to people on 4chan, which had and has a heavy basis for Undertale. And this dog disregards time and space. It's really spooky when you learn how to notice him. He's just so spooky. Yeah. And so, as you can see by this dog subject, there's a basis to being monstrous in a way as a human. But Undertale fans, they don't like to consider that. They prefer to think of the Undertale characters as LGBTQ. Although this is not directly stated. They see symbolism for LGBTQ, which I suppose comes from how that gender and sex movement defies God. And so they connect that defiance of God with monstrousness. But that's pretty bigoted. And it's quite personal nature, this bigotry, because, the underbeasts? What are they? They are Catholic monsters. They literally have cross highlights in their eyes. Yeah. It's just quite personal in nature to pretend like a monster is inherently non-Catholic. It's just a pretty nasty thing to suggest. I spent about 10 years in isolation because, my life I was trying to form with my best friend who happens to have worked on Undertale. When it collapsed, I didn't choose some alternate life. I just stayed isolated. I played Dota 2. I looked at things in my brain and I felt excruciating pain on a daily basis, but hey, it's not so bad when you factor in the fact that I'm closely connected to monsters and I'm a weird guy who believes that monsters are real. But unless you factor that in, it really sucks to think of somebody inspiring a video game and living in excruciating pain. Because these LGBTQ people, I love putting hot sauce on my chicken, and I should let the hot sauce warm up so it doesn't make the cooked chicken cold. So anyway, these LGBTQ people interpreting Undertale and other things in this hostile way towards Catholicism and other topics, like, honest appreciation of cinema as a bird just might perhaps do if there was some reason for birds to enjoy cinema. Some weird reason. If there was a reason for birds to enjoy cinema, quite possibly they would enjoy this cinema being deep fried with some sweet hot sauce, deep fried with just some energy, just some, they fat is energy, It's just energizes it. It deeply crisps it. It's in the energy. So anyway, if the bird was black, and if the bird was black, there would be a connection between fried chicken and black whatever, black what, black who, and movies. Or maybe just creativity in general. There'd be this connection to fried chicken in hot sauce, perhaps. If you really want to energize your food. I know it's not very clear, but I've never talked about this before. It'll be clearer next time. This connection between hot sauce and frying and birds and black whatever. So anyway, when these majority fans were being so spiteful, they were causing me excruciating pain. Because, number one, Undertale was personal in nature. My best friend worked on it. A girl artist I really liked worked on it. In fact, one of my primary motivations for being isolated was that, there were some nasty people on the internet who would be willing to attack Michelle, the creator of Atlas Demon, if they knew that she was connected to the artistic projects of a random guy on the internet who just may be me. The artistic projects of a guy on the internet who can ruin their lives because they are LGBTQ and into social justice and stuff. So in order to take away support from him, they would attack this person as she had been. It was aggressive, but it wasn't as personal and planned and intentional as it could have been. There were these Tumblr people getting on Michelle's case. I wonder how many of them were fans of Undertale. I wonder if there's a way to investigate this, like supernaturally, perhaps. So anyway, getting back to this, seeing all these majority fans of Undertale just completely spoiling a very personal aspect of Undertale and also completely rejecting the message of interacting with people who are either literally monsters or associated with monsters, as a lot of people on the internet have made themselves associate with monsters. Theming their internet accounts with avatars and whatnot, with a monster identity. I suppose these majority fans who are into LGBTQ and stuff, I suppose they accept that kind of thing, but only if that person either identifies as LGBTQ or is very, very friendly to LGBTQ. Otherwise, it's disconcerting and dangerous for them for the reason explained in my article. And so, tried this cheap energy drink. I don't like it that much, but I feel like it's a pretty good substitute for, Sunkist, which has a lot of sugar. I think it's a pretty good substitute for that Sunkist, desire I had. I don't like diet Sunkist. It's not very good, as I remember. I wish there was diet grape Sunkist. So anyway, it can really energize a lot of things, It can really energize a lot of things for these LGBTQ fans of Undertale. For example, I could message churches, I could message Christians, I could message, those anti-groomer guys, and I can message random, just based conservatives who are cool. And, they might find the thing I have to say pretty weird about monsters and hating Homestuck or whatever, but I think they would eventually get it. I think they would get it pretty quick, actually, but I may be wrong about that. I don't understand people perfectly, but at any rate, I think it's completely obvious I won't have difficulty. But instead, I prefer to discuss things with the... That's it. Rip it. I love ripping out. Woof. Woof. So anyway, I prefer to discuss things with the Undertale community. There's a personal connection here. Not one that people want to acknowledge, but I was real good at looking at people on the internet. There's certain things I have gained from all that looking. The whole narrative of Homestuck, it's always winding like a gross snake around my life, and I know there are Undertale fans who don't like to associate with Homestuck at all, but the fact is that Homestuck is thoroughly embedded throughout LGBTQ and wider woke culture. That gross snake is most certainly there, even if you like to think of it as a turd in the toilet. The toilet is your life, if you're one of these majority Undertale fans I'm speaking of. And, well, you can try to rip it out, but that would be painful. It's better to be kind and understanding and friendly, as Toby did encourage you to be about certain things, like perhaps monsters associated with the word under, maybe? Just maybe. Just maybe that's possible for the average Undertale fan to conceptualize. There's quite a few people I've actually enjoyed the thought of meeting. I've never been to Comic-Con or anything. Actually, I've never met anybody in these internet communities because, well, I chose art as my career and, oh, just didn't quite get anything going now, did I? Because I was a conservative. I didn't believe in no abortion. It was very personal to me, actually, because I believe so strongly in reproduction. Actually, reproduction is a concept associated with the black domain, and actually, black people are associated with the black domain, and actually, monsters are associated with the black domain too. So, abortion is not something that I enjoy. In fact, I avoided doing anything about Homestuck or Undertale for 10 whole years. Because I so strongly believe in abortion being wrong that I was willing to live in excruciating pain looking at that Homestuck shit on the internet. And so when you make your dumbass comments about, give me proof, number one, shut the fuck up. Number two, there are certain things that I can do. If you do not make better responses, that's literally all I'm asking for, is to make better responses. That is quite literally all I am asking for. And yet you keep on being an ass to me. Total ass. Huh? 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 Do you want me to fill your lives with an inferno? Because I'm quite sure it would be easy. I saw that Toby Fox's reputation was suffering. I just really felt that little temptation. Not the temptation of Satan. It's a special, pure, monstrous intention to just throw gasoline on that. But I didn't. I just sent a few messages and I got nasty replies. Little mean people. These meanies. These meaties. These meanies. Mean? Yeah, the mean. Very mean. This is not working. Absolutely nothing about my artwork is fake. It is all natural. 100% natural. I mean, I look at the Bible, I look at nature. John Christopher Lucy taught me how to do this. He taught me how to unlock cosmic power. The things that I could do with all that power, but I'm too busy loving Jesus and hating abortion to do it. I think I've earned a little bit of wiggle room to maybe just kind of stretch the rules a little. I know that people have stretched a lot of rules in very cruel ways to, the Lord, God. But I think my good friend Jesus would be understanding if I stretched them a little too. Because if monsters are real, then being monstrous is their nature, is their identity. They are created to be monsters, and that makes a lot of monstrous things good. Even if it is evil, it's good for monsters, so that makes the evil thing they did good. It's just a little Just a little, just a little candy corn for thought. I can't remember the real saying because Homestuck fucked up my brain. Otherwise, I would have a perfect catalog of every cool old saying. But Andrew said, if left to my own devices, I would just attack Jake English all day, every day. That's what he said. And Jake English was associated with old-timey sayings, you know? And so, whenever Homestuck fans did anything about Jake English, that was a spiritual and psychological attack. Unless they were nice to Jake, then it wasn't an attack. But things were well balanced in favor of an attack, and so I have some trouble remembering my old sayings because of all the damage to my soul I sustained through the axis of the Jake character, and this goes on and so forth. Hello, kitty. Hey, baby. Oh, such a cute kitty. Oh, kitty. Really burnt out my guts. I've never toasted my guts like that before, kitty. Without it being involved in my private torments. Yes, Samantha. It feels good. And so, my message to you Undertale fans is to honor Toby's original message, which does in fact relate to actually monsters, and monsters are not actually symbols for LGBTQ. And of course, Undertale relates to things besides literal monsters, but the literal monsters are an important aspect of the message. If you don't understand this about your favorite game, you can really fuck things up. And when I say that, you should remember that people do not currently get what they deserve, and the idea of what people deserve just seems so much more dramatic when it comes to me. And I really appreciate God putting me in that situation, because despite all I have experienced, it really lets me be myself, express myself in ways that other people cannot. That's a blessing that makes up for all the things I have endured already. And that will only be good enough for a little while. But that's good enough for a little while. And during that little while, we all have free will. And the way you use your free will most certainly can change the nature of the spiritual background of people's lives. Just food for thought. That's the term. Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I believe in other spiritual realities besides the spiritual dimensions of gods, everything. I believe in other spiritual realities, and they're an important thing to bring up for creativity because they help us develop our imaginations. And as part of the black spirituality, I end with affirming that there most certainly is a meaning to the name Homestuck, even though Andrew cannot explain what it was, and there are these black entities which formed this meaning, and it has to do with me literally not leaving my house to, just hang out with some nice people I saw online.